civic engagement. And we are here today to talk about how civic engagement goes hand in hand with student success. Thank you to AACC, the Austin Asian Community Civic Coalition, for hosting this event. And thanks to all of our panelists for speaking, and of course to you, our audience, for attending tonight's event. So real quick, I am going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. And I'm going to start with Jimmy, the city councilor. So just in a minute or two, briefly, could you just tell us about yourself and maybe what kind of civic engagement experience you have and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Well, thanks for inviting me to the event today. My name is Jimmy Flanagan. I am the Austin City Council member for District 6 in far Northwest Austin. Prior to being a council member, so I'm at the end of my first term, 4 years. Prior to being a council member, I was the president of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. I was also doing a lot of community organizing. I formed my own community group with a group of co-founders called the Northwest Austin Coalition, and did some kind of municipal advocacy around redistricting and some issue stuff. And so I did the LGBT chamber work for a long time. Did it a lot in partnership with the other minority chambers of commerce. There's an Asian chamber, Hispanic chamber, Black chamber. And then prior to that, well, I think prior to that, I was a UT student. So I was a student, started a small business, got involved in Chamber of Commerce, and doing the work of like civil rights, and the intersection of civil rights and economic strength was really, really interesting and valuable work. Some of the most fun that I've had as an adult. And then that led me into wanting to serve on the city council and try to make things improve in our community at an even higher level.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Jimmy. Next, I'm going to ask Leanne to introduce herself. Again, just 1 to 2 minutes really briefly. What is your civic engagement experience and how has that led you to where you are now? Leanne?
Hi all, I'm Leanne Chia. I'm a native Austinite. I went to Westwood High School, graduated in 2012. And after that, I went to undergrad at UT Austin. And then I went to law school at UVA, which is University of Virginia. And now I'm a second-year corporate associate at a law firm up in the Northeast. It's called Lowenstein Sandler. And just moved back down to Austin from COVID, so we're all working from home, but happy to talk to you about my civic experience. I was a part of APAPA, which is the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs Association. From its inception in Austin, 2014, I believe, until 2016 when I graduated undergrad. So I was a part of its inaugural class of interns, and I interned at Congressman Lloyd Doggett's office for a year from 2014 to 2015. And after that, I just got, very excited and passionate about legal advocacy. So I went on to intern at Environment Texas during law school, and then a civil rights group in Texas for a little bit. A couple other pro bono opportunities, and I was in Charlottesville during the Unite the Right rally. So I was a counter protester there and involved in some local groups. And I was in the crowd when the car came down. So now I'm a part of the lawsuit against the Unite the Right organizers. So I'm involved in that as well. And civic engagement has just been a great through line throughout my life in directing my passions for legal advocacy.
Okay, wow. So you just got sucked in.
Yeah.
See, how it snowballs, bringing you to law school. So full disclosure, Leanne actually and I go way back. We're classmates back, I think, in middle school. So we've known each other quite a while, and it's been really inspiring, interesting to see how she has really just grabbed on tight and is riding the whole wave of civic engagement. So thanks, Leanne. We're definitely going to be interested to hear about a little bit more detail as to how you connected those dots later. But next, we have our panelist, Rhoda Mirza. Please introduce yourself really quickly to the audience. Thanks.
Okay, so my name is Ritha Mirza, and I'm a sophomore and Women's Leadership Scholar at Babson College, and I'm studying computational and mathematical finance right now. And before I went to Babson, I attended Westwood High School, and I was in the IB program, and I was heavily involved in speech and debate. And so to give you a background and overview of my civic engagement, I got involved with the Round Rock Smoke Free Coalition in high school. And then in college, I've been involved with voter registration and voter education efforts on my campus. And then this summer, I had the opportunity to intern for a PAPA/IACT through their summer internship program. And I got the opportunity to intern for Texas State Representative Celia Israel. So that was a great opportunity for me to learn about civic engagement.
Thank you. And then real quickly, Rita, do you have any sense of what you'd like to do with this going forward?
So I'm not sure what I want to do with this going forward, but I think it's opened my eyes into going to law school potentially in the future and getting interested in civic engagement stuff.
Might be roping another one in. Great. And then last but not least, we have Sonia Sultan. And why don't you introduce yourself, Sonia?
Hi, my name is Sonia Sultan, and I'm a freshman at Westwood High School. And well, I also do debate, but like my whole life, I've always been like pretty interested in doing political stuff. But recently, leading up to the election, I've been doing a lot of like political campaign work under various candidates, like working on all parts of the campaign, and a lot of phone banking too, under like Mike Siegel here in my district, District 10, and other places in Texas too, like District 24, Candace Valenzuela, and like basically the whole Democratic Party as a whole, which also includes Biden. And I also started my own organization called Calls for Votes. And other than like phone banking and political campaign work, we also do like GeoTV efforts and basically trying to like educate people on like the importance of voting and just to like persuade people to get out and vote. And a lot of like outreaching that's like completely nonpartisan. It's just to like educate people and get people, and especially young people, more like politically engaged.
Yes, we are so, I mean, I am personally really excited to see someone as young as you are really grabbing the bull by the horns. Could you tell us a little bit, I mean, how, as a ninth grader, I mean, as a ninth grader, I'm pretty sure I, was more focused on playing video games or something than, asking other people to vote before you can even vote yourself, since you're not 18 yet. I mean, how is it that you got so involved so quickly? And hopefully we'll go in reverse order and try and get an idea of what's the life cycle of someone who, what it looks like when someone really goes all in on civic engagement.
Yeah. Well, like, I've always, like, my whole family, they're also pretty, like, politically and, like, civically involved. I remember when I was, like, in a stroller, I would go block walking with my mom. So it's always something that, like, I had, like, interest in and, like, something I'm interested in. And while I remember I first started the election season in the summer, and then I didn't have, like, schoolwork to do, so I had, like, a lot of time on my hands, and so that's when I started to go all out. I was working, like, 17 hours a week, and like doing a lot of work, and especially in like internships and fellowships, like we had like hundreds of calls we would make every day. But then like once my school started, I shortened it to 15 hours because it was a little much. I'm also in like AP classes and it's hard. So, but still, I was still very dedicated, and I still wanted to really help these candidates because they have great messages, and I really want to get them elected. And I just want to like change and like give back to society and make a difference. So that's what really like motivated me to like get started and go.
Yeah, thanks. And then just a quick follow-up, Sonia, since you're really young, so you don't have to have an answer, but do you have some sense of where you would like to take this? I mean, what kind of possibilities has this experience opened your eyes to that you maybe hadn't thought about before?
Yeah, well, I haven't like completely decided on what I want to do, and I'm only like a freshman at the moment. But like maybe I will like consider doing something like politically like related to this stuff that I'm doing. I don't know, but I'm not sure yet.
Well, that's perfectly fine. I'm pretty sure I had no idea what I was doing with my life as a high school freshman. So I think you are probably one step ahead of where I was. So I'm going to go now in reverse order to Ruta, and let's explore what one of these paths might look like. So Ruta, can you, you mentioned your first experience. How did you make that first step? How did you get connected? And what made you think, aha, I found something that I want to do?
Yeah, so in high school, I just wanted to learn more about policy. So I reached out to one of my club advisors and they encouraged me to get involved with the Round Rock Smoke Free Coalition. And I was able to learn and also help with getting an ordinance passed in Round Rock that banned smoking indoors in restaurants and bars. And through that experience, I learned a lot about like maybe policy on the local level, but it opened my eyes as to what I want to do in the future. And I've kind of got interested in corporate law through that way. But later on, I got engaged. I got interested in civic engagement just because my parents weren't citizens till very recently, and I just want to learn more about issues that could potentially affect them in the AAPI community. So that's where I really got interested and wanted to apply for a PAPA, the internship program.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think for a lot of us in the AAPI community, immigration-related issues are, well, we can't be taken for granted, let's just say, and that people do have to think very carefully about, their immigration status and the opportunities that are available. So, I'm really glad that you're being sensitized to these issues at such a young age, even though I'm going to assume that you're probably a citizen and have been since a very young age, if not since birth. Can I ask, you said you did this smoke-free ordinance in Round Rock. How did that get you interested in corporate law? Help me connect the dots there.
So a lot of it was about businesses because like restaurants and bars allowed their customers to smoke within in their facilities, and that impacted the employees. And so we worked with a lot of organizations and communicated with a lot of these businesses. And that's where I started getting interested in maybe how policies could help affect corporate regulations.
Okay, great. And then next to Leanne, who is yet one step further along on the path. How did you get started, and what has been the most interesting in your many civic engagement experiences so far, Leanne?
So I got started back, I guess it was from really joining APAPA in 2014. But I was pretty involved in community efforts, since a young age. My parents really wanted me to give back. So I was in a service fraternity in undergrad. And that kind of just snowballed into learning more and more. And from I think my most salient experience was at Congressman Lloyd Doggett's office because I was there for a year. I really got to see all the different aspects of representation and just kind of being behind the scenes and learning how much red tape there is in bureaucracy. That really got my gears going. And I also participated in a delegation to Taiwan with some Travis County delegates, and that, learning that part of diplomacy was really interesting too. So I think that just snowballed into being more and more interested in a legal career.
Okay, and as a recent law school graduate working at a law firm, how do you, kind of see your legal career tying into your future civic engagement? Obviously, there's a deep link between law, politics, and civic engagement, but just to help connect the dots out there for some of our younger students who might be thinking about, do I want to go to law school? Do I not? How did you make that decision, and what do you hope to do with it?
Yeah, I initially went into law school because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want to do. During undergrad, I went into a ton of different fields. I worked throughout the 4 years. So I was in accounting, real estate, obviously a representative's office, and childcare, and a couple other things. And after every experience, I was like, I like this kind of, but I don't really like the nitty gritty. I don't think it's effective enough. It's not really, pushing any policy or anything as much as I wanted to. So I went into law school and I kind of did that analysis of just elimination, what I wasn't interested in. I didn't want to do litigation. I wasn't great at moot court and arguing in front of a judge. I just kind of liked a more conciliatory experience. So in law school, you try everything you can. So I did a bunch of clinics and pro bono, and I wound up being really interested in tech ventures and private equity. So I work a lot with startup companies now and tech and venture capitalists. And that, it's not directly connected. My actual practice doesn't really have to do with civic engagement all the time, but I think the field itself is filled with people who are really passionate about, the law and concretizing the law with, citizens. So we have a ton of, it's just finding the right fit of like what you want to do, and just really talking to as many people as you can, because I had no idea what was involved in a legal career. I thought it was just whatever was on the screen, just law and order. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunities as a corporate attorney to become civically engaged.
Great, and yeah, I think it's good for our audience members to hear that you don't have to go all in to still be involved and make a difference and be connected. Lawyers sometimes sue people. They get involved in nasty fights. Sometimes they help make deals and prevent fights from happening. And so I think the more people who are helping, build agreement rather than kind of slugging it out in court, maybe that's a better thing to be doing in any case than going into litigation. But our next and final panelist obviously has very much gone all in. I believe that city council is a full-time job and maybe more than a full-time job. So Jimmy, you talked a little bit about your path. Could you talk a little bit about like, what is it, what made you decide to run for city council, and what is it that you get to do as a city councilor to benefit the communities that you're a part of?
So, guys, there's so much I want to comment. Y'all are so brilliant in the work that you're doing, and I want to have a conversation about everything that you said. Sania, if you're looking for an internship, I do internships in my office. Just put that on your radar. The path for me becoming a city council member was in part going through public engagement, trying to advocate from the outside as a community leader and a chamber of commerce leader, and frankly, not being satisfied by that process. We don't have the time for the long version of the story, but basically I was going to these repeated community engagement meetings that the city would set up, asking small business owners how the city could be better for the economy and small businesses. And I started hearing the same complaints at every meeting over many years. And I realized, well, I don't know that the position that I'm in right now is actually moving this needle. Maybe I need to go up the food chain. And I started, and that was, I probably came to that realization maybe 10 years before I became a council member. It was really kind of a long view of like, all right, well, if that's where the work gets done and that's where you make people's lives better at a bigger scale, then who do I need to know? What are the groups that are kind of the power brokers, and how do you build those relationships and start to build support and build a community around you? When you run for office, as I'm in a runoff right now, so it's a pretty intense process. It takes everything you have. It takes everything you have, your emotions, your physicality, in some cases your finances, in order to have the honor and the privilege of representing any part of a community, in my case, District 6, in the pursuit of making people's lives better. And there are so many things you get to do as a city council member. I'm in the job now. I've never been any other type of elected official, so I feel like it's the best job there is. It's also the worst job there is, because it is just everything. And the part of it that I think is most rewarding is when you're on the city council, and this is true in any city, when you're on the city council, you are the level of government closest to the people. And you have an opportunity to really get to know your constituents, to understand their needs, to understand their concerns, and in many cases be faced with conflicting perspectives, and the work of, the legal work that you might call mediation is sometimes what you do as an elected official to try to bring people together into common cause. and it is incredibly rewarding work. And you know, the other cool thing about being a city council member is sometimes when you do the work, it literally turns into something physical in the community. So you have like Anderson Mill Road in my district is under construction right now. That is a road project I originally advocated for before I was a council member, and then helped pushed it through as a council member. And now I get to see like concrete is being poured, and it is a direct through line to work that I had been doing both as a community advocate and a council member. And that's pretty cool too. You're on mute. There you go.
So I clicked it and I guess it didn't want to cooperate. Thank you. Yeah, so great. You talk about literally concrete applications or concrete benefits of civic engagement. So I've asked our youth panelists a little bit about where they are in the life cycle, what they've been up to. We see Jimmy is kind of what it looks like when you take it all the way. But obviously, these are only some of the paths that a student or a young professional might take for civic engagement. And I just wanted to ask, Jimmy, you've been a city councilor now for 4 years. I'm sure you've had past interns in your office. What kinds of things do they work on? And do you have any sense of what they're up to now?
Well, I take a little offense to the notion that I'm at the end of the life cycle. I mean, come on now.
Not the end of the life cycle. You're
like the hair may be gray, but give me a break.
You're at the mature side, and you're.
I think that's better. Whatever. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. You know what? This work is so hard that if you don't find ways to also find joy, it really will weigh you down. And that's a really important part of civic engagement and participation, is really finding the joy in the work that you do, because it can sometimes be very challenging. The internship question. So while we were chatting, I kind of messaged some of my staff. We've had a lot of really unbelievable, talented interns come through my council office. Many of them, I've only been a council member for 4 years, so it's not that there's been enough time for them to go off and have full careers. But many of them have moved on to Ivy League schools or starting consulting businesses, working in civic engagement, working in public engagement. In one case, I have an intern that's now at Harvard Law School. Some of the interns have traveled and taken what they learned to other continents. We've had a really unbelievable partnership with the Asian Pacific Islander group, APAPA, to bring in AAPI interns into my office, because District 6, as I often brag about, has the city's largest Asian community amongst the council districts. And so we've had some really talented interns come through and learn the process, at least from the city of Austin side, about how work gets done. How do you actually solve a problem? And in one case, we had an intern who had an issue in her own life. She had a really unfortunate incident. Her dog got hit by a car in a city park, and she took her work and platform as an intern, and it turned into speed bumps and signage in that park as a response to her own experience. And so I've had interns that haven't just learned, they've actually made the community better as interns. And it's been a pretty cool experience for everybody, I think.
Great. That's again amazing to hear. Literally concrete applications of interns being able to take their own experiences and their own frustrations from their lives and be able to apply it through their civic engagement experience, which I think is just wonderful. So I actually now I want to ask you a little bit more, Jimmy, and hopefully go in reverse order. If someone is out there thinking, geez, this sounds really cool, I might want to do this. How do they get started? Like what are the entry, on-ramps to civic engagement, especially if someone hasn't done this before, doesn't maybe have all the political connections that a city councilor might have. Any thoughts as to, how someone might jump in?
Campaigns are the easiest and fastest way, because when you're in an election cycle, you have a whole community of folks running for office at all different levels. If you're someone that feels really passionate about the legal system, you might find that in Texas, at least, we elect our judges, and they have to get reelected, or maybe there's an open bench and there's candidates running for judge. You can volunteer on those campaigns, and you'll not just get a chance to talk to the community about what the candidate is trying to accomplish through that run. You actually get to know the candidate, and you get to know the staff that surrounds them. And in those conversations, you get to meet the next crew of people. And that is, it's by far the easiest way to start that process, because it is kind of by design. Campaigns are always looking for more folks who are able to give of their time. And you then get personal connections to a lot of the folks that are involved. And you have, in Texas, of course, you have judges, you have school board members, you have city council races. You, of course, county commissioners will run for office. You have constables. You even have law enforcement folks that have to run for reelection. So almost just about any focus area you might find an interest level in, there's going to be some election over a 2-year period that speaks to that issue. And then I think the fastest, but maybe not the fastest, but it's the most effective way to get to know the folks who know the folks. And that's how you start to build. If elected office is your goal, you definitely need to kind of see what it takes, because I have found a few folks see, the part where a council member is on TV at a council meeting and kind of banging on the desk, we got to solve a problem and it looks real cool. And then they get involved in the campaign, like, I don't want any part of this. This is ridiculous. This is insane. And so getting to see all of those pieces also helps maybe direct you into a more joyful place for your advocacy.
Okay, great. And so I got some notice that some people were having issues connecting. Hopefully that's been resolved. For those of you who are new to the stream, please put any questions or comments you might have into the either the YouTube comment section or the Facebook comment section, whichever one you're watching from. Those will be relayed to me, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end to ask audience questions of the panelists. Also, some of you more astute watchers might have noticed that the color has changed. My external camera gave out on me, so I switched my decidedly inferior quality laptop camera, but couldn't be helped. But moving along, thank you, Jimmy, for that really insightful answer. Yeah, I know I'm not a panelist, so I'll just be really brief that I did volunteer on a number of campaigns and got much more access than I thought I would as just an entry-level volunteer to these candidates, some of whom were running for very high offices. I totally second what Jimmy has said, and that volunteering for people, is a great way to get connected. So now let's go back. Leanne, you mentioned that you interned for Congressman Doggett. This was a really kind of formative experience for you. How did you get connected with that opportunity? And what was your favorite part, and what was your least favorite part about working in his office?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was a part of the inaugural class for Papa in Austin. And I was originally just at his office for the summer, but I had time in the school year, so I kept going back. And it turned out to go on for a year. And my favorite part of it was probably, working on the constituent cases. So a lot of people don't know that you can contact your representative to ask them for help with other governmental branches. So we had a lot of veterans cases, and that really connected the dots for me for what a congressman can actually do for you besides, voting in the House and Senate. And just having those, interactions daily, that really helped me see, this is what's important. I think the toughest part of the job was definitely also talking to constituents, frankly. We have to take all these calls, and there's a lot of people. It's hard to be like a 19, 20-year-old trying to talk to people who have a lot of issues, but that helps you mature and gain a lot of experience too. And I think, I mean, that just opened my eyes to what was possible. I didn't know, there were all these different positions within a representative's office too, that you could explore if you were interested in media, if you were interested in, obviously the law, but there are like so many more things than just being a representative. And the office is really big. And I also think APAPA itself, because I went on to intern for National Executive Director. She was the previous director, Victoria Lee. That was a great experience. And I think that just kickstarted my interest in getting more involved in these kinds of groups, besides campaigns and, actually working with a representative. I think these nonprofit groups and, social service groups are incredible and really great networks that I don't know if most AAPIs know about, or, the Asian community isn't as connected, especially if you're a first generation or if you're from an immigrant family. It's really tough to just familiarize yourself with this kind of networking. And I think being a part of Papa, and then in the future, a lot of other orgs, really helped me gain a leg up than I normally would have. It really just gets you used to talking with people and really chasing after what you want instead of, keeping your head down and doing the work.
Yeah, I think that's a really great and important message to share. That one, words to the wise, if you're having issues with the federal government, whether it's immigration, tax, or permitting, veterans benefit stuff, calling your local congressman's office can be incredibly helpful because congressional votes help determine these agencies' budgets, if nothing else. But also, yes, being part of these networks and being, connected to these. In this kind of whole world can really be valuable to building networks for your career. So I want to, since we have more time than I was expecting, you guys just knew what you wanted to say, and that's great. For Rhoda and Sonia, I mean, why don't, if I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but, if you can think of some, things you'd like to explore, and while we have Jimmy here, maybe he can help you brainstorm about like ways to connect the dots, right? Like if you're interested in this, like where might be a good connection to make or a place to intern or work for to gain the kind of experience that you might want and to make the connections that you might want. So I'm trying not to put you on the spot too much either, Jimmy, but thought we might make use of your expertise while you're here. So Rhoda or Sonia, either of you want to talk about, some at least current interests that you have that you want to explore?
Yeah, so I think, Jimmy, like you mentioned that you worked with the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce in Austin, I think, but I was just going to ask how I can get involved with agencies that are I'm specifically interested in finance and just businesses. So I was just going to ask you, what are the next points of connections I can make to further my interest in those areas?
Yeah, I have no problem being put on the spot. It is one of the things you often have to be prepared for as a council member. And so I've tried to put as much information in my brain as I can. So we'll see how good I do here. But if your interest is business and finance, and you want to get involved on the advocacy side, then chambers of commerce are a great place. And Austin has a variety of business organizations, some of which will have interns from time to time is one option. Some of them have programming specifically for youth. And in Austin, there's even a young chamber of commerce. So you have the Asian chamber, the Black chamber, Hispanic chamber, and the LGBT chamber. That's kind of under this umbrella of multi-ethnic chamber alliance that we have at the city. We also have, of course, the Greater Austin Chamber, which is kind of, every city kind of has a chamber of commerce. You have the Austin Young Chamber, which is an interesting place, and they have programming targeted to specifically for young professionals who want to get more engaged and learn more about careers. That's probably the place I would start, given your question. But we also have other groups. We have a group called Austin Independent Business Alliance. that focuses on locally owned small businesses, and they do some of the kind of street by street, like business district stuff. In District 6 in West Austin, there's a West Austin Chamber of Commerce that if you're interested in kind of doing something that's more maybe close to home, if you live in that part of town, they may have events. And, they all have events. So they also have like networking event, or, pre-pandemic. It's all harder right now. But soon, we will be back to networking. You can help volunteer, run those events. And really, it's getting to know people. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to talk to folks who are older and who are in the careers or in doing the work that you want to do. And just be bold. There's nothing, frankly, more flattering than a young person asking you for advice. You're not going to get turned away. And I think the phrase is fortune favors the bold. And it is absolutely true when it comes to networking and engagement.
Thank you for your suggestions. It was really helpful.
All right, and Sonia, do you have any thoughts as to opportunities you might want to explore, interests you might want to take another look at while we have Jimmy on the line?
Yeah, you were talking about your internship. That's definitely something I would really be interested in doing. So like, can you maybe tell me more about like what exactly I'm gonna get to do in that?
So we've had interns at different roles, and every council office kind of does interns differently, depending on the makeup of their district and the staff that they have and kind of how the pieces fit together. So we've had interns that have helped with like marketing, because we have a website. We have a atxd6.org, which is my official website. So we've had some interns help kind of pull blog content or research links or community events. We've had some interns who had a kind of a specific policy area they were interested in. We've had them on transportation. We've had them on like growth and affordability and development. And so they've been able to kind of get their teeth in and be in many cases kind of a research assistant, where you have the staff will be working on a policy idea, but it's always good to have data and research to back up your proposals. And so you, as an intern, may be asked to get on the Google machine and start finding the examples that you can find that relate to this topic. We've also had interns that are more interested in the engagement side. And so we've had, again, kind of pre-pandemic, it's a little different in the moment, but, we'll do town hall events. I'll do a town hall event, and you can have the interns will help set up the event and be present, work the sign-in tables, people sign their names in. And there's just a wide variety of work in a council office where interns can be really useful. But the key really, from my perspective, the key to the internship is really having some sense of what you want to learn and getting to know the council member. Because when you're in the job and the council member staff, many of whom have been council staff longer than the council member. Right? My chief of staff was a staffer for a prior council member. And so they have kind of these longer longevities, and you have an opportunity to kind of hang out and talk and ask questions about what is it like and what are their suggestions. It's kind of an information gathering opportunity for you as an intern. A lot of really great, cool stuff you get to do that you get to be exposed to as a city council intern, because the city of Austin, frankly, is the most complex city organization in the entire country. We do literally everything, right? It's not just police, fire, EMS, parks, and libraries. We also run the health department. We also run the airport. We run the convention center, the water company, the electric company, the trash company, the drainage, the roads. It's like all the things. And it's almost impossible not to find something that will inspire you.
Great, thanks very much, Jimmy. And
Thank you for-
watching another. Oh, Sonia, please go ahead.
I was just saying thank you for that.
Yeah, for those watching, watching these and participating in these panels is also another way to get one-on-one advice from city council members. So while we're on this topic, some people might be thinking about like, well, how can I find out more about these opportunities? There are a number of internship opportunities, not just at the City of Austin level, but that are geared towards AAPI youth. And I'm going to ask one of my co-organizers to drop those links in the comment section of the YouTube comments and the Facebook comment section, so you guys can take a look. And probably in our follow-up email for those who registered for this event, we'll try and include a collection of those links. These are congressional internships, city internships, and kind of everything in between. So if you are interested in these opportunities, keep your eyes peeled. I think I'm going to ask, hopefully my team members will get on it quickly to put it in the comment section. So
if I might make a suggestion.
Please do.
Just another comment. A lot of how we're talking about this kind of implies a career in public service, but there are so many benefits to almost any career by what you would learn from an internship. And I think Leanne is nodding her head because she's had that experience. But also, when you get into the private sector, it never hurts to have, friends in high places, frankly, and to have built some relationships. You might find that it advantages your career down the road. And, I often describe politics as, certainly winning elections is mostly luck and timing. And you only have so much control over the things that are happening in the world. But if you really kind of set your table as richly as you can with as many different experiences, especially at a young age, you will find yourself really in an advantageous place when you're seeking whatever career you end up finding is your passion. And something that I know Congressman Doggett would appreciate me saying, sometimes the way you can give back is having a really great career, making a lot of money, and then giving donations to politicians, because that's another way to do some engagement, because somebody got to fund the campaigns, man. I ain't got money.
Yeah, thanks for that. Those suggestions, and yeah, our conversation thus far has been, I think, kind of subtly politics oriented, but civic engagement is about much more than just political engagement. For people who might not want to get into the rough and tumble of electoral politics, there's tons and tons of community organizations, food banks and Big Brothers Big Sisters, or these other kind of mentoring opportunities, cleaning up parks or highways and so on, that I'm perhaps our youth panelists might not be so familiar with, but I'm going to ask you one last question, Jimmy. What are some of these nonpartisan, political per se, non-electoral opportunities that someone who says, I want to make my community better. I don't want to be under the spotlight. I don't want to get into knife fights, about, this politician over that politician or whatever. I just want to give back to my community. What are ways that someone can do that?
I don't know about knife fights. Although, to be fair, last week I was physically accosted at a campaign event. So you know what? Go look on my Facebook. You can find the video of it. It's pretty crazy. I actually have a lot of these in my head. Most of them, frankly, have endorsed me in my reelection campaign. So it's kind of an easy Rolodex, frankly. One of the areas we haven't talked about is environmental issues. And, I will just say kind of writ large. Austin, the last time I was told this statistic, at least, Austin has more nonprofit organizations per capita than any city in America. There is a deep, deep well of opportunities in this city to engage on just about any topic. And it kind of comes back to that joy question, find the thing that inspires you. But I'll give you some examples. That's what you asked for. We think about environmental issues, climate change and green space and water quality. You have organizations in Austin like Texas Campaign for the Environment, the Sierra Club, the Clean Water Action. You have issues around kind of mobility. So there's like Bike Austin and Bike Texas, which are bike advocates. There's Walk Austin, which talks about pedestrian access. There's a disability advocates group, ADAPT, which is another great group. They don't do endorsements. I don't get people confused. I'm not going to name every group that endorsed me. Many of them have. But ADAPT is a great group if you're interested in working on solving issues related to folks with mobility impairments and other disabilities. There are racial justice issues, obviously major racial justice issues in our nation. Austin has some really forward-thinking groups like the Austin Justice Coalition or Just Liberty, and some other groups that I've had the pleasure of working with as the chair of the Public Safety Committee for the council. And they're doing some pretty spectacular work. There are groups that deal with the rights of tenants and renters. There's the Austin Tenants Council. I'm going to forget the other names, so I'm not going to try. But there are a handful of groups that work on those issues. If you're interested in kind of economics and the kind of socioeconomic challenges that a city faces, there are groups that deal with growth and business and development. There's the Chambers of Commerce do that, but there's also groups like RECA, which is the Real Estate Council of Austin, that talks about more development writ large. There's groups like Evolve Austin, or AURA, which AURA, which advocates for kind of walkable communities where you don't always have to drive your car and you can walk to the store and you can walk to school. And what does it mean to have a built environment that can support that type of community? Austin has a pretty robust labor advocacy environment. A lot of the labor unions are really geared towards the union members, but you have groups like the Workers' Defense Project, which advocate for workers' rights, less as a union and more of an advocacy group. That's an interesting area of work that happens. Environmental, racial. And then of course there's all the partisan stuff too. Like don't forget there is the partisan stuff. So you have Democratic Party, you got Republican Party stuff too. I'm not a big fan of Republican Party, but you have Democratic Party clubs, and in Austin and Travis County, even in Williamson County, you got a pretty great system of Democratic clubs. So some of them are geographic, like you have the Far Northwest Progressives or the Western Wilco Democrats Club, and some of them are based on issues. There's an Austin Environmental Democrats. Some of them are based on identity. There's like a Austin Black Dems and a Tejano Dems, and there's the Central Texas Asian Democrats. There really is kind of a group for everything in this town. And if anything, and of course LGBT stuff, right? I did a lot of that. Running the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, you have Equality Texas and HRC and Out Youth, which does youth-focused work. Aid Services of Austin, which I think is Vivint Health now. So, I mean, it's just like a constant drumbeat of things.
So
I can go on forever.
Yeah. So I think we can safely take away that there are gazillions of opportunities, both partisan, nonpartisan, local, issues-based, kind of any way you want to slice it, there's something for you. And now I want to ask our youth panelists who have been patiently waiting. Thank you. Some questions from our audience. One of them is asked, what's it like, being part of the younger generation? What's the friction like between your political views and your parents? And has that gone in the way at all with your civic engagement, or how has the generational issue affected your civic engagement? And I'm just going to open the floor for this one if anyone wants to jump in.
I was going to say, I feel like there hasn't been too much friction. I actually feel like I've gotten encouraged a lot by the older generation to get more involved. Even in my internship right now, like my supervisor and also Rep Israel, they both encouraged me to get more civically engaged. And I also think like my relationship with my parents, like both of them encouraged me a lot. So I think it's important to find role models and people in older generations to support you so that they can boost you through your own civic engagement career.
Sonia or Leanne, would either of you like to take a stab at this question?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't felt any problems or friction with that. I feel like, I agree with what Rilla was saying. Definitely they support you. My parents, we have similar political views, and so they definitely support me in this stuff, and they work with me in this stuff too. They're always helping me with my organization and all the stuff I do. So yeah, it's more help than friction.
Yeah, I agree with Sonia, and I think she's a great example of, Gen Zers getting more involved. I think as the younger generations, growing up with the internet and TikTok and whatever, they just have more information than even you and I did. In high school, we weren't exactly getting super involved in civic engagement. So I think that these two are a great example of the younger kids just, being more active and having more information available, which is great.
Yeah, well, so since all of our panelists, our youth panelists, said that they really enjoy the support of their parents, I think for the most, I'm going to boldly insert myself as a moderator and say, I have mostly enjoyed the support of my parents. Obviously, as one of the hip youths, at least relative to my parents' generation, there is plenty of daylight between our political views, and while we don't see eye to eye on every issue, I think for the most part, people in my parents' generation, especially in the AAPI community, have been really excited to see that young people like me and Leanne and Rhoda and Sonia are taking on these issues that our parents' generation felt like they weren't able to, whether because of economic pressure and focusing on their career, or maybe not having maybe having language barriers, or just not having grown up in a democratic ecosystem and not like for us, we all take high school civics or a government or whatever, and we think like, oh, like obviously that's how it works. But it's literally foreign to our parents. And so I think on the whole, yes, I think while we might not see eye to eye on every issue, I think for the most part, this first generation or our parents' generation have been very supportive. And I just want to personally say that I very much appreciate that. I have another question from the comments. I'm going to read it 1 second. Many of us have an interest in these topics and issues. However, it can be intimidating to approach and get started. What advice would the panelists give to young people who want to do something, yet also feel overwhelmed by the doom and gloom? I think very appropriate for 2020. Any suggestions from any of y'all, Jimmy or any of the youth panelists? I'm just going to let anyone who wants to jump in take the floor.
I will say the nice thing about working at the local level in Austin is it's not that you are sheltered from the doom and gloom, but you really do have an ability to make things better and an ability to be around like-minded folks who also want to make things better. One of the big challenges we have had in 2020 and hopefully will be over soon is really this kind of feeling of isolation. We don't have as much social interaction as we used to as a community. And that can cause a lot of problems. And certainly, we're streaming this live, but social media only going to take you so far. We got to get back to that place, hopefully with a vaccine, get back to that place where we're able to have those kind of accidental interactions with folks at different meetings and community events. But I find that while there are a lot of issues, but at the local level, you really do get to feel like you're making a difference, and that certainly helps me get through it.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I agree that it's pretty intimidating when, if you haven't been really involved in the community before. And I would just encourage anybody who is interested, but doesn't exactly know how, you don't have to apply directly for an internship or go speak at a meeting or anything. Just find some groups that align with your interests, be it, environmental, or even if you want a general one, a PAPA is great. And just join up for the newsletters or something. See if they interest you. Watch these panels, watch city council meetings, and just kind of eke into getting involved. And once you do, you don't have to, lead meetings or anything, but you'll slowly just get more and more involved in the things you are actually interested in. And I just think exploring these kinds of organizations first is really important.
Yeah, and then I think we've mentioned APAPA several times. I don't know if we've actually mentioned what the acronym stands for, so I'm going to try. It's Asian Pacific American Public Affairs Association, APAPA, if for those of you who want to look it up. Rhoda and Sonia, do you have if you want to give a quick response to this question? If not, I'll probably ask our closing question since your time is valuable and I want to make sure we end on time. So
yeah, so although it will be intimidating, you're gonna learn more than you're gonna lose. So you definitely should just like go for it. Like I remember when I first started phone banking, I was a little hesitant because I'm like, oh no, I have to like talk to people on the phone, and that's a little like intimidating. So, but then I realized like it's okay. They're not gonna like see me. That's like maybe one benefit of being like in COVID, that like it's on the phone. They're not gonna actually see me. They don't know who I am. So even if I do mess up, it's fine. So like, and anyway, I learned a lot. I learned like better like communication skills and stuff like that. So you definitely don't be intimidated. You're gonna learn more than you're gonna lose.
Okay, great, thank you. So I want to ask our final question, and I want to ask you guys to be very brief because we have our end coming up, and I know you guys have other things to be getting to this evening. So if you had just one suggestion for, okay, I want to get civically engaged, I've been sold, what is like the easy thing that I can do right now to kind of make my first step in the next 2-3 weeks? You guys have any suggestions? Lightning round. I'm going to start with Jimmy, since you're used to being put on the spot.
I mean, go to jimmyflanagan.com and sign up to volunteer with my runoff campaign. I mean, how could you not? You just set me up for that. You just set me up for that. There aren't a lot of campaigns that happen in December and January, but there are actually some pretty important campaigns happening right now. You have my runoff election in District 6. You have a runoff election in District 10. You have runoff elections in all of AISD, all of the Austin Independent School Districts in the runoff election. And then you have runoff elections in Georgia, Senate runoff elections that are happening. And there are local organizing efforts. I'm more familiar with the Democratic Party organizing, but where you can actually help in the Georgia Senate race too. So you can always volunteer with my campaign, again, jimmyflanagan.com. But there are all manner of opportunities to do. And that is by far the fastest, quickest, number one thing you can do to get civically engaged right now.
Okay, and then Leanne?
Yeah, I would echo that. just because it's so quick. I mean, phone banking or anything else for campaign volunteering, it's not big brain stuff. There are tons of things that you can do. And if you're intimidated, take a look and you'll see it's really just like click, push. Okay, I'm going, so if you're really afraid of talking to other people, donate money. Then you get on all the newsletters and everything. And I would just pay more attention to those kinds of things if you're really interested in getting involved. Just reading thoroughly through newsletters.
Yeah, and if you're, of the TikTok generation, you don't talk to people on the phone, I think you can text bank. So moving on, Rita and Sonia, do either of you have any suggestions you want to plug or things that you're going to be doing in the next 2 weeks that we might join you at?
I was going to say, along with campaigns and donating, I feel like something that's just going on year round is just local organizing efforts. I feel like you can always contribute to those, such as like efforts for like racial movements or like just any kinds of rights. Like there's local organizational efforts happening all the time. And I think you can easily get involved by joining one of those orgs.
Okay, and last but not least, Sonia?
Yeah, basically what like Jimmy said, although like some elections are over, there's still runoffs. And like you still should be like helping out in runoffs. And like there's the Wednesday night voter activation phone bank for Jimmy that y'all should definitely join. I think Shanghao can put the link somewhere. Yeah, I should definitely still work out because we know the voter turnout in runoffs is usually quite low. So we still need to help out our people and work in the runoffs.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for contributing your time this evening. We're all very happy to have you, and I hope this was valuable for our audience members. Thank you to AACCC for organizing this event and for providing us with Zoom account and all the back end stuff. There's a number of people who you are not seeing on this Zoom who have been nonetheless instrumental. It is incredibly valuable in putting this event together and hopefully providing value to our community. But with that, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists, Austin Councilmember Jimmy Flanagan, Leanne Chia, Rita Mirza, and Sonia Sultan. If you have any follow-up questions that you didn't get to ask, you can comment them down in the videos or email. You can email AACCC and we will try and get a response to you. For my part, I am personally always very happy to mentor and advise younger students who want to get involved. And I'm not going to speak for anyone else here, but I'm sure that our panelists are also very generous with their time and expertise. So once again, thank you very much, everybody, and we are signing off for tonight.